Good afternoon. It is mid-January and I am just getting around to trimming and treating my fruit trees here. I just finished trimming back the peach tree and I did a hard prune on the apium this summer, and I didn't see much on the apium I wanted to remove, so I'm going to leave it as is because there is a ton of buds on the tree. I did trim back the peach because I did not get around to it this last summer after it finished blooming or fruiting, and I don't think I've done this correctly, but it's as good as it's gonna get for me. For the peach, I removed the dead, diseased, and dying along with the crossing branches and most anything going into the center of the canopy, but I did leave some things in the center of the canopy because I believe it is the fruiting wood. If I understand how this works properly, this is where I cut last year and this is the new growth, and this fruit on second year wood, so I believe the fruit would come off on all of these small spurs, these kind of purpley spurs around the plant. So I didn't want to remove too much because I believe that's where all the fruit's going to come from. I did try to remove well, most everything facing down because I did have a lot of fruit. Like, it had, if you remember, I had a whole network under this tree to hold it up because there was so much heavy fruit on it. So I'm hoping I've done a better job this year, but looking at it, there's still a lot of wood in here that I probably should have removed. It's just one of those things, you know, when you're new to this stuff, you're kind of afraid. Learning to prune is a really difficult thing, and I am not comfortable with it yet. And as a result, I think I leave a lot more branching on the network of the tree than I probably should. But I don't want to miss out on the fruit for next year. This is an example of a dead branch. You can see it's brown and it doesn't have the same gloss as the branch above it. It's also not purple like the new growth is, or it's not green like this growth is. So this is something that would be removed. In addition, it's very thin branch that's going down, so any if it was actually a good piece of wood, any fruit would just weigh it way down and it would probably break off anyway. So here you can see this is where I cut it last year, and I probably need to tip this so it doesn't get too long. I was evaluating the direction of all the buds on this, and I want to make sure that whatever I pick is going out, not necessarily up, and definitely not down. I would do a cut here, here, or here, because this bud and this bud are facing out. There's a bud here that's facing down and a bud here that's facing down, so I wouldn't want to cut just above either of those buds. I have quite a few examples of where the end of the branch has died and this end is still really strong. Here's an example where I tipped, or I did a heading cut on a branch, and then what that will cause is this branch here, the one right below it, to continue to grow out instead of continuing to grow straight up. And then later I'll trim this one so that it branches out and that I have a nice network of fruiting wood. I also want to start this by saying I don't know a lot about fruit trees. It's primarily what I've learned online in either reading or watching videos, and I'm going to say that I'm not a good example of what to do, but I am an example of what happens when you're not sure and you're worried about, you know, potentially cutting too much off and losing your harvest for the year. So I wish you better luck in your decision making than I have in mine. Thank you for joining me for my garden journey.